September 24th, 1987. Dr. Kaushal Saran, an Indian American physician, was walking near his home in the Jersey City Heights. Most nights, this would have been fine, but on that specific night, Dr. Saran was brutally attacked by three youths wielding baseball bats. The injuries left him in a coma and resulted in serious, irreparable damage to both his skull and brain. 3 nights later, on the 27th of September 1987, an Indian American man named Navroz Modi went out for drinks with his work friends. What should have been a night of fun, relaxation, and connection turned into a night of horror as Modi was brutally beaten by 4 teenagers. Modi's injuries put him in a coma and eventually left him dead. These actions were not isolated accidents. They were part of a series of racially motivated hate crimes against South Asian Americans in Jersey City. The people behind these attacks? They called themselves the Dot Busters. In their cruelties towards South Asian Americans, the Dot Busters' hate crimes instigated extensive reactions from Asian-based advocacy groups and instilled countless revolutions against foreign hate organizations that are still in existence today. However unfortunate it may be, the horrific nature of their crimes is what sparked reforms regarding race relations in the state through the introduction of extensive anti-hate legislation and support structures for South Asian Americans. Yet, the foundation for the Dot Busters' actions had been laid decades before the first hate crime against a South Asian was ever committed. The 1965 Immigration and Nationality Act removed the previously placed immigration caps on non-European countries. As immigration from South Asia began to increase, many white Americans already living in areas across the US started to target South Asians, spurred by the economic anxiety in the 1970s compounded with the model minority myth during this time. This harmful stereotype, especially applied to Asian Americans, characterized them as inherently successful, intelligent, and hardworking, which, although sounding positive, instigated much hatred and jealousy towards them. From the 1980s, New Jersey became the dominant state for South Asian hate. This hate was disseminated especially in Jersey City and Hoboken, where South Asian communities had vastly increased in population. During this time, many Indian immigrants had settled near Journal Square and the Central Avenue corridor, areas where prospering neighborhoods with diverse cultural and economic hubs were on the rise. That is, until problems started to occur. The local residents were resentful of these hubs made by the South Asian people. Economic competition and racial prejudice started to create a tense social environment, causing the situation to escalate starting in August and early September of 1986. It was then that the Dot Busters began to attack South Asian dot heads, a name given as a result of the bindi that many South Asians wear. The Dot Busters felt threatened by the arrival of new immigrants and started to attack South Asians in public. The group used racial slurs and intimidation, calling immigrants names and threatening their well-being. These Dot Busters believed that many of the higher-paying good jobs were being taken by South Asians at an alarming rate. Their solution to this problem? Violence.
Following this operative letter by the Dot Busters expressing their hatred towards Asian minorities, fear spread throughout communities in New Jersey. To add to the terrors, their hatred did not just stop at written remarks. They took things to the next level, using violence, as demonstrated by their attacks on both Dr. Kaushal Saran and Navroz Modi, leading to the death of the latter. As a collective, the actions of the Dot Busters sparked spirited outrage from anti-hate organizations, as they had established themselves as not just an underground hate-based group, but as literal murderers. To add insult to injury, early responses from the local police force were not sufficient and were simply slow and dismissive, brushing the crimes off as simple street fights. Police officials at the time asserted that without a specific hate crime statute in the books, they were only obliged to charge suspects under existing assault and homicide laws. The reality of the situation was that charging specific hate crimes under trivial offenses did not provide victims the justice they deserved. Despite having evidence that these crimes were hate-based from both the letter and the statements made by the perpetrators, the police took a stance of ignorance that resulted in the proliferation of future tragedies. Many of these passive actions by the judicial system stem from a long history of negligence and a batted eye during the 1980s. This negligence minimized the exigency of the issue and left the Asian American community without the justice and protection it deserved. Furthermore, the expansion of the Dot Busters didn't occur in a vacuum. It was rather a part of an increase in bias crime in New Jersey that also targeted Jewish people, African Americans, and the LGBTQIA+ community. Throughout the 80s, arson, vandalism, and even murders directed towards these groups underlined the necessity of concrete legislation. The legislation that could have prevented these attacks would not, however, come about without a certain level of advocacy. At Columbia University, the Indian Youth Against Racism helped the families of the victims gain justice and pressured prosecutors to pursue their cases. The group also encouraged the state of New Jersey to implement South Asian education in public schools and pushed for legislation like the Ethnic Intimidation Act. Therefore, the South Asian community itself did not remain passive to the violence they were facing. Rather, they took a charge in their struggle and advocated for methods to end the tensions. The New Jersey community also came together to stop the violence. After the letter was published in the Jersey Journal, hundreds of people marched throughout Jersey City demanding police protection and for real change to be made. Immigrants from various cultures and backgrounds came together, forming interfaith coalitions with community leaders speaking publicly against racial violence. In addition, organizations like the Indian American Forum for Political Education became more active, allowing for a greater civic role in politics. The Asian American Legal Defense and Education Fund took action in the courtroom, reacting to the atrocities of the Dot Busters with legal advocacy for victims and providing a support system for those fighting against the group.
In response to this, the New Jersey legislature passed the Ethnic Intimidation Act in August of 1990. The act, one of the toughest of its kind at the time, called for increased punishments for crimes caused by a bias. It also provided the framework to upgrade misdemeanors caused by bias to fourth-degree felonies and allowed judges to provide harsher punishments for crimes they deemed to be caused by bias. Eventually, the law was further adapted to make it easier to convict youths who committed hate crimes. However, despite the positive reforms that resulted from the fallout, the victims never truly received justice. While all three of Dr. Soren's assailants were indicted, all of them were also acquitted during trial, never facing the consequences of their actions. Only one of Mr. Modi's murderers ever faced jail time, and he was released after only 4 years behind bars. His father, who sued the city for failing to address the issue of hate violence properly, had his lawsuit thrown out in 1991. Like most other hate-based groups, the Dot Busters were still only a small part of a greater nationalist belief throughout America during this time. White nationalist conspiracy theories, such as the Great Replacement Theory, claim that immigrants, in general, steal jobs from non-immigrants in the US. South Asians, a group that is relatively well off in the US, are thus regarded with serious contempt for taking jobs away from real Americans. This demonstrates a continuity with right-wing claims against other groups, such as claims against the Italians in the 20th century for taking industrial jobs and claims against the Latino community today for taking jobs in the agricultural sector. Ultimately, immigrant groups are treated harshly due to right-wing perceptions that immigrants take jobs from real Americans. Right-wing groups and politicians have had many responses to this perception, the most notable of which is the establishment and encouragement of ICE in undocumented immigrant raids. Fears about the effect of immigrants nationally stemming from ultra-nationalist perceptions materialized into a government agency that is constantly trying to detain immigrants. From 1975 to 1993, the Dot Busters, as well as other hate groups, perpetrated acts of terrorism against the South Asian American community in Jersey City. In 1991 alone, 58 incidents of racially charged attacks against Indians were officially documented. Despite these concentrated efforts, the group failed to undermine the spirit of the community, and stricter reforms were set in place to ensure that another group could not get as powerful as they did. Today, the Indian American community holds a strong presence in Jersey City and New Jersey as a whole, but there are still significant instances of anti-South Asian hate. The Dot Busters serve as a cold reminder of what consequences may arrive when racial animosity is allowed to flourish unchecked.